Coming up next on KYOU News for You at 10, we hear from Democratic candidate Rita Hart going over her past and her future if she's elected.
After the rain and storms move out, we are anticipating a cold end to the week. I've got to look at those high temperatures coming up in just a few minutes.
It's Unity Day for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, how organizations around Ottumwa are helping victims. These stories and more as KYOU News for You at 10 starts right now.
Live from Ottumwa, the news that's important to you. This is KYOU News for You at 10.
Good evening, I'm Eric Monaghan. Last night we heard from Miller Meeks about her candidacy to replace the retiring Dave Loebsack. And tonight we hear from Democrat Rita Hart, vying for the 2nd Congressional District seat that covers Iowa City, Davenport, and Ottumwa. Hart is a former teacher and state senator. She ran for lieutenant governor in 2018 with Fred Hubbell, losing out to Governor Kim Reynolds. But as Phil Reed found out, the setback isn't stopping her from wanting to continue working for Iowans.
Rita Hart has spent her entire life on the farm. She and her husband currently have a farm in Wheatland, and she grew up on a dairy farm.
I tell people I was fortunate. I was raised by a strong Democratic father and a strong Republican mother. And we had a lively caucus at our dinner table every night. And so that's where I learned how to stand up for what I thought, and it also taught me how to listen to somebody who doesn't agree with me. And that sometimes that really helped me to understand my own position, and more importantly, taught me that the good ideas come from everywhere.
Those values are how she feels she can tackle the political divide in this country. When Hart wasn't on the farm, you could find her in the classroom. She's a retired teacher. She hopes people come out of the pandemic with an appreciation for teachers. During an outdoor one-on-one social distance interview with Hart, she says she wants to empower change in schools, to embrace more technology and individual instruction.
Perhaps we ought to be changing the way the school is utilized on a day-to-day basis, open up the doors for longer hours, change the school calendar, change the school day to fit the needs of the students and the families, so that we can really accelerate what we're doing in the classroom in a way that's satisfying to educators and to families and to students.
On health insurance, Hart says she supports the Affordable Care Act and wants to work off of it to lower health costs.
We need to work on making that more affordable and making health care more accessible, which the Affordable Care Act has done for us. And so the first thing I think we have to do with health care is to not go backwards.
Do you support Medicare for all?
What I support is a system that helps people to access that health care better. I think that it would be great to have a public option or perhaps a Medicare buy-in to lower those costs so that health care is more affordable and accessible to people.
She supports people protesting against police brutality. She's been working with law enforcement, lawmakers, and activists on how people can work together to address the issue.
I do not support defunding the police. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But I do think that we obviously have to address systemic racism.
Hart feels her background in agriculture and education, as well as those childhood dinner table conversations, makes her the better choice for the 2nd Congressional District.
I know that we're facing big issues around healthcare, around the economy, around education, around racial injustice. And I know that the only way we're going to fix these problems is if we come together to do that together. I'm ready to do that. I will always remember how important that is, to listen to every voice at the table and work together with people, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, independents. I know that good ideas come from everywhere.
And tomorrow night we'll hear from Congressman Dave Loebsack about why he decided to retire from Congress and what he hopes to do next. But for today, the temperature threw us a bit of a curveball with a pretty warm day and sunny skies. Let's have a look at what's coming up in the following days with meteorologist Kelly Puchel on your First Alert forecast.
Rain and thunderstorms are going to continue to push across our area as we head into the overnight hours. Pinpoint futurecast from now until around 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll notice a lot of that pushing off to the north and east, but still much of our area still covered in that rain. That'll continue to move to the north and east. Still left over some leftover showers as we head towards around 3 o'clock in the morning before eventually they do push out, but we still may see that as we head towards tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind and notice that strong northwesterly wind will be pushing in after midnight tonight as well. That's going to bring in this colder air that you notice up towards our northwest into the 20s and 30s. That's going to push across the state. Although we're holding into the 50s this evening, we won't be holding there for very long over the next couple of days. Here's a look at your planner overnight tonight as temperatures will drop from the upper 40s at midnight all the way down into the low 40s at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're talking about upper 30s as we start your day tomorrow. Rain and thunderstorms will continue to push through. Another look at Pinpoint Futurecast coming up in just a few minutes.
After speaking with Sheriff Don Phillips on Monday, we continue our coverage in the race for the Wapello County Sheriff's Office. And tonight, KYOU's James Barrickman met with the challenger for the position, Kelly Feikert, who says he could bring a fresh perspective on law enforcement.
Kelly Feikert moved to Ottumwa in 1996, and since he's been married and raised his family here. Now he's running for the Wapello County Sheriff's Office. Being a salaried manager at Walmart for many years, he says he can efficiently handle the department's budget.
Sheriff's Department, to me, is a business. I mean, we have to be good stewards of the money that we get from the citizens and the government and use it the best to keep our community safe.
While Feikert doesn't have any experience in law enforcement, he does have 17 years of experience as a volunteer firefighter, including 6 years as chief of the Wapello County Rural Fire Department. So he understands emergency services, and he says that's what's valuable.
The hardest thing for everyone to get a grasp around is what the role of the sheriff is. You know, everybody's always looked at, oh, they need to be the best law enforcement person out there, they need to do all this stuff, but our role is not as the sheriff. It is to manage the office, make sure that corrections are handled properly, and, you know, that the courts are done great, the policing staff, the deputies who do the law enforcement under the law are the ones that are on the road doing that job. So,
if elected, Feikert says Wapello County Jail needs expanded, but he also wants to implement a combined dispatch between the Ottumwa Police Department and the Wapello County Sheriff's Department.
We have plenty of city staffing and county staffing in the same room, but they can't communicate, they can't do the same job. Well, that's, you know, that's dollars for the city, dollars for the county that could be absorbed together and maybe save some money on the budgets to help both sides out.
And when it comes to combating the drug problem in the area, Feikert says it's about community involvement.
We have a limited supply of deputies or law enforcement even in the city that can't be everywhere all at once, that can't see everything. So we rely on that phone call, that dispatch, that, I mean, we can get lucky, obviously, and we can pull somebody over and whoops, here we found something. It's going to be a long battle if we don't get the help of the community.
After keeping his name out of the running during the special election 2 years ago, Feikert says now is the right time. I'm James Barrickman, KYOU News for You.
And COVID-19 hospitalizations and the positivity rate are still high in the state today. The state added over 1,400 cases today, passing 111,000 total cases. And we saw 15 Iowans succumb to the virus today as well. And here's the latest number from Wapello County. You have 40 active cases with 4 hospitalizations and just under 1,500 total cases. Positive tests are at 7.9% and 62 deaths. And today is Unity Day for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. KYOU's Jatira Marsh finds out how you can support those in unfortunate situations and what you can do if you need help.
The Family Crisis Center in Ottumwa has been around since 1978 and has serviced over 2,000 victims annually. Today, on Unity Day of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Lorraine Euling, who was the executive director of the Family Crisis Center, shares how you can spread awareness.
We provide lots of assistance to victims and their families. So we're always in need of pots and pans, silverware, food products. We don't take clothing any longer, but we need furniture for when victims are moving out and into their own household. And what we really need right now is cash donations.
The Iowa Secretary of State, Paul Pate, gave a statement sharing the importance of today, saying domestic violence touches all types of communities across the state. Last year, 99 Iowa counties experienced at least one domestic violence conviction. We want survivors of domestic violence to know that there are resources out there to help them. Resources like
individual counseling, we have group counseling in some of our communities. We provide services to children that have been affected by domestic violence. We provide court advocacy, so we can actually assist people in getting a civil restraining order.
Along with emergency housing for fleeing victims and their families in those units. Euling says that the center provides services for 12 counties in the state of Iowa. Jatira Marsh, KYOU, News for You.
And coming up next, the final presidential debate finishing up tonight. We'll take you back to Nashville, Tennessee. Plus,
I've got the latest timing on when that rain eventually will push out and a cold end to the week. We're only talking highs into the 40s and a chance of snow coming as well. An update in just a few minutes.
You're watching KYOU News for You at 10. And now, First Alert Weather.
Here's a look at what you need to know in your forecast. Coming up over the next couple of days, rain and thunderstorms continue to move throughout the overnight hours tonight, and some of that rain could linger into tomorrow morning. But something else you're going to want to notice is a cold Friday. Temperatures are going to fall into the 40s for highs tomorrow, much cooler than what we saw today. So do anticipate that you're going to need to keep that jacket handy all day long. Here's a look at tonight's setup as that cold front continues to push across the state of Iowa, but notice that northwesterly flow of winds. That's really going to dictate our temperatures as we head over the next 24 hours. We were really getting in on this southerly wind today. That's what allowed those temperatures to really rise to a pretty above normal level today. But notice again, cold air is what's going to be pushing in behind that rain tonight. So anticipate a chilly end to the week for your Friday. Here's a look at pinpoint futurecast over the next couple of hours. All the way through around 3 o'clock in the morning, we could see scattered rain and thunderstorm activity. Some leftover showers still possible between around 3 and 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So do anticipate that you may run into a few showers on your morning commute. You're still going to have to deal with those strong northwesterly winds throughout the entire morning. I think that rain will start to clear out as we head towards the late morning hours between 10 and 11. And as we head towards the afternoon at around 2, we still left over with lots of cloud cover. We may see some of that break as we head towards the evening. Otherwise, a cloudy and pretty cold day ahead for your Friday. Your forecast overnight tonight, those thunderstorms will be pushing across the area. Anticipate southerly winds at least for an hour or so. And then once we get past around midnight, we will start to see those winds shifting to the north and west between around 15 and 25 miles per hour. A few gusts could be higher than that as we head into the overnight hours. Otherwise, temperatures drop to around 37 degrees. Your planner hour by hour tomorrow, 38 degrees is where we start at 9 a.m. But notice temperatures won't be rising too much, only to a high of 43 degrees as we head towards the afternoon. Again, mostly cloudy skies anticipated. A few peaks of sunshine may be possible as we head towards the evening, especially towards sunset. And then temperatures will be dropping back down to around 35 degrees as we head towards around at 9 o'clock tomorrow. It is going to be another gusty day as we head towards your Friday. This time north winds between around 15 and 25 miles per hour sustained, but gusts could be between 30 and 35 miles per hour throughout the entire day. I think that main threat going to stay with us through around 6 p.m. tomorrow. And as the sun does set like we normally see, those winds will start to die down across the area. Your temperature outlook from October 28th through November 1st is still keeping us in that higher chance of seeing cooler than normal weather across the area. So anticipate this cold weather to really stick around with us as we head towards the end of the month and the beginning of November. Our precipitation outlook through around the first week of November keeps us in that very high chance of seeing drier than normal weather. So after we saw quite a bit of precipitation today, we'll see that overnight and a few chances towards the end of the weekend, but we do anticipate a dry stretch to come back into our area as well. Here's a look at the rest of that 7-day forecast as we could see a few lingering showers for your Friday morning. Otherwise, I think by the afternoon, we're still going to stay cloudy and cold, highs near 43 degrees all the way through the weekend. We will be dry, seeing a little bit more sunshine for your Saturday. Our next system, though, pushes in as early as Sunday. That's going to bring the chance of a rain-snow mix, which could transition all over into snow as we head towards Sunday night and into Monday. Temperatures drop into the low 30s through Tuesday. We're back into the 40s by the middle of next week with dry conditions. Back to you.
Thanks, Kaylee. And the final presidential debate at Belmont University is finishing up tonight. Alice Barr is in Nashville, Tennessee with the latest.
In their final debate and last chance to reach tens of millions of voters at once, President Trump and Democrat Joe Biden waging a war of words and ideals.
If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
The idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening.
Biden tried to prosecute the case that President Trump has failed to protect the country from the COVID pandemic that's claimed more than 220,000 American lives and sickened the president himself.
This is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter.
Say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does.
Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it.
It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault.
Hanging over the debate tonight, new reports that Iran and Russia are trying to influence the election.
They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty.
There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump.
The president tried to shift attention to Biden's son Hunter and unverified claims about his business dealings.
His son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich.
There's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family.
A climactic showdown between the president and the man seeking to unseat him in less than 2 weeks. President Trump heads to Florida tomorrow for 2 more rallies before he plans to vote in person there on Saturday, while Biden returns to Delaware tomorrow to deliver his plans to beat COVID-19 and get the economy back on track. In Nashville, Tennessee, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And a vote on a stimulus package for more coronavirus pandemic relief could happen before Election Day. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Thursday that the House and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin are still working to reach an agreement on the details.
It's only about time. Now, somebody may make a decision on their side that they don't want it before the election. I think it is arranged for us to pass it before the election. But it's not up to me to decide what the Senate does. That's a conversation between the president and the majority leader. But we wouldn't take less of a bill to get it sooner.
And the deal would have to be finished by the weekend in order to get a vote on the floor by next week. And as we reported last night, the U.S. National Intelligence found evidence of Iran and Russia separately trying to meddle in the election. And we're learning more tonight about what the U.S. says was an attempt by Iran and Russia to meddle. NBC's Pete Williams fills us in with the latest.
Voters in Florida and a few other states began receiving threatening emails this week that appeared to come from a far-right group called the Proud Boys, known to support President Trump, especially after he fleetingly referred to them in the first presidential debate.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
The email said, "You will vote for President Trump on Election Day or we will come after you," urging recipients to change their registration to Republican.
It was incredibly threatening. Are these people actually going to come after me? Is this for real? Is this serious?
But the director of national intelligence says the real senders of the emails were overseas.
We have already seen Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage President Trump.
National security officials say Iran hacked into a few local U.S. voter registration databases about 2 weeks ago.
It was in a couple different municipalities, a very small number, 2 or 3, across in different parts of the United States, but it was a small amount of information.
The U.S. concluded this week that Iran was using that data to send out the phony emails. Russia separately obtained voter data through its own computer hacking, intelligence officials say, but so far hasn't done anything with it. NBC's Ali Arouzi in Tehran reports the Iranians say it wasn't them.
Senior officials here are vehemently denying all accusations, saying that they don't care who the next president is because policy towards Iran will remain the same.
And Iran's phony emails were relatively simple. U.S. intelligence officials say they're more worried about what might be done with the data harvested by the Russians, considered generally much more capable of causing trouble. And coming up next, the latest unemployment numbers as people seek jobs trying to recover from COVID-19.
Live from Ottumwa, you're watching News for You at 10. Available anytime on KYOUtv.com.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Monaghan, and we have encouraging news for the U.S. economy. American jobless claims inched lower last week. According to the Department of Labor, 787,000 workers claimed first-time unemployment benefits on a seasonally adjusted basis. That's the first time since March that initial jobless claims were below 800,000. Still, millions of Americans do continue to rely on government aid to make ends meet. Continued jobless claims, or people who have applied for benefits for at least 2 weeks in a row, stood at 8.4 million. That's about 1 million lower than the prior week. And Southwest Airlines took a major financial hit this year, and now the company is making a big change in an effort to mitigate further losses. Southwest will start selling every seat on flights starting December 1st. During the coronavirus pandemic, middle seats were blocked out to help passengers spread out. In an earnings report released today, Southwest cited findings by medical and aviation organizations as a reason for resuming normal sales. A Department of Defense study found wearing masks protected passengers from airborne transmission because of the airflow systems used on planes. The move comes just in time for the holiday travel season, which will no doubt be lighter than normal. Delta is now the only major U.S. carrier limiting the number of passengers on flights. United and American Airlines dropped that policy months ago. And if you were a bride or a groom during the pandemic, or if you were asked to attend a wedding, things probably turned out a little bit different than expected. Some have chosen scaled-down outdoor ceremonies, while others have been forced to postpone the event altogether. But with a few bumps in the road, one couple still managed to have their dream wedding. And now they're sharing their tips. Haley Pilot has the story on this newly married couple.
They still had their dream wedding, but Lucas and Catherine Young say not without a few hurdles.
We thought by September we definitely would be fine. There'd be no restrictions. The worst of it would be over, but that wasn't the case.
In the summer, they got an email from their venue saying there'd be some restrictions for their September 12th wedding.
We were going to have past appetizers, and they all had to be plated on the table for the guests. Place settings, all the silverware had to be wrapped. It wasn't my Pinterest-looking place settings that I had thought of.
Also individually wrapped, hundreds upon hundreds of cookies for Pittsburgh's famed cookie table wedding tradition.
I think we got very lucky with our venue because it was always considered an outdoor entertainment space.
With an open-air dance floor, but Catherine says not everyone invited felt safe coming.
My dad's family didn't come because they are more at risk for getting it, and I didn't want them there for that reason either, because I would feel awful, and that was always in the back of my mind the entire time planning was, what if somebody does get it?
For those who did show, the couple tried to eliminate any awkwardness with color-coded wristbands, indicating each person's comfort level with dancing and socializing.
It was easy to tell who would be comfortable with you coming up to them and who was like, oh, I'm more hesitant towards that.
Due to travel restrictions, they had to reroute their honeymoon 3 times.
The Canary Islands would have been awesome, and then Hawaii would have been amazing, but you know, it was still, in the end of it, it was still, we were fortunate enough to do anything.
For any other brides and grooms out there who had to change or postpone their dream weddings, the newlyweds say try to focus on the positive.
You know, you've already been dating and seeing this person for, you know, however many years. What's one more year potentially?
And at the end of the day, you still get to marry the person you wanted to marry, and that's what it's all about.
And coming up next, highlights from tonight's NFL game between the Giants and the Eagles. This is KYOU News for You at...
And now, KYOU Sports for You.
Welcome back. The Philadelphia Eagles welcome the New York Giants tonight into Lincoln Financial Field for some divisional Thursday night football action. Both teams looking for just their second win in Week 7. Let's go to the highlights. Eagles opening possession of the game. They drive down the field and cap it off with a touchdown after Carson Wentz read option 7-0 Birds. And we jump now to later in the first quarter. Quarterback Daniel Jones lobs it down the field to veteran receiver Golden Tate, who rips it away from Eagles defender and walks into the end zone. Giants tie it up at 7. And now the best of the play of the game. Mid-third quarter here, Daniel Jones keeps the ball on the read option, and there's nobody home. He takes off with no defenders in sight. He could go all the way, but he doesn't. He trips up, and it's an embarrassing moment for Jones. Luckily for him, the Giants would take the lead with a touchdown later in the drive. And the Eagles have just taken the lead again in the game. Looks like the score now is about 22-21 with about 40 seconds left in the game. And that's all we have here for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for KYOU News for You at 10. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Until then, for news and the latest First Alert forecast 24 hours a day, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and visit our website, KYOUTV.com. Have a wonderful day.